This guy was in Minnesota for that Sunday night victory. Tony Dungy, the Hall of Famer from NBC, kind enough as always to join us on the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line. Coach, good morning. Always appreciate you coming on the program.
Oh, it's great to be with you, and I'm listening to your conversation, and it makes me laugh because I actually spoke to Raheem Morris. He came on. No head coach in the world does that, but he came on our show in pregame and talked about what they wanted to do. And then he told me, he said, Coach, you're going to love this because we're going back old school. We are not going to do much. We're going to take away the run. We're going to make them throw. We're going to run the ball. And just what Jesse and the guys are saying about the defense, I think that's what showed on Sunday night. And I'll tell you what, the Vikings guys were worried about that. I asked them what they expected. Well, we don't know because it looks like it's partly Raheem stuff, it's partly Albrecht, and we don't know which way it's going to lean. But they went out and they slammed them, and I was not expecting that.
Tony, can I ask, is it time to maybe go back to simpler times when everybody has all these plays and all these things I can do? Isn't it maybe, and we talked about Wade Phillips, I don't know if you heard that. Wade was a great first-year guy because Ray Buchanan and other guys told me when he came in, he just made it simpler. You can't read and react. Just know what you're supposed to do and then go do it.
Well, I guess I lean that way because that was always my philosophy, and that's what I learned from Chuck Noll. We're going to know what to do, we're going to know how to do it, and we're going to do it. Well, now you have the analytics, and we've got to have this, and we've got to do that, and these coaches with 500 plays on their play sheet, going in. And I learned from Denny Green. He said, hey, we're going to have 10 third downs. That's all. So we got to call our best stuff. So I don't need 50 defenses per third down when we're only going to have 10 of them. Let's perfect what we're going to do, make sure the guys know what we're doing, and let's go.
How surprised were you to see seemingly the entire rookie class play the way they did for the Falcons on Sunday as well?
Well, I think that's part of it, too. And that's our job as coaches is to get guys who are talented, get them in the lineup, and let them play. And you don't have to teach them 5 million things before they can get out there. Let them know what their responsibilities are and go. And it was good to see. And I know Atlanta, when they drafted those young pass rushers, they felt good about it. And to see them go out and perform, hey, this is what we've got, it had to excite everyone.
I know they're professionals and they're grown men. Talk about the bounce in everybody's step when you come back into practice this week, when you have that game under your belt. Early in the season, by the way, too.
I think they needed that because in the Tampa game, they actually outplayed Tampa. It just didn't show up on the scoreboard. And they made some plays, Tampa did, to win the game. And that can demoralize you. But then to really say, you know what, let's just go back and play our type of football and see what happens. And then they do it and you beat a good team on the road. That tells you what you're capable of. And I think you're right. I think they're going to come in to practice this week on Wednesday excited and pumped up.
It also tells you just because there's 32 of them quarterbacks in the NFL, they're not created equally. What you couldn't do against Baker Mayfield, who's a playmaker, J.J. McCarthy, in second start of his career, was not probably ready for what was happening to him all night long.
Yeah, and what happened, though, is they took the running game away early. They made it a throw game, and that's exactly what they wanted to do because I asked several of the defensive players and coaches, and I asked Raheem, are you going to pressure this guy? Are you going to bring it? He said, no, what we have to do is not let them get their run game going. If they have to throw, then we're going to feast. And that's exactly what happened. And the other side of the coin, they couldn't do that to Michael Penix. Minnesota wanted to do the same thing, but Bijan Robinson and Algier got going. They had to defend the run. Atlanta's throwing when they want to, not when they have to, and it was two completely different games. So it's easy to say, oh, well, J.J. wasn't ready and Penix is farther along. But no, Atlanta was able to dictate pace, and that helps the quarterback.
Does Bijan Robinson remind you of anybody else? You're a historian of this game that you've ever seen because his ability speaks for itself.
He really does. He's a mixture of things. It kind of, you hate to say Emmitt Smith, but I saw guys bounce off him. I saw him make cuts and accelerate through holes. He's strong. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He really is a special talent. He is.
Tony, it was when they drafted him, it was to help Desmond Ridder. It's sort of that tight end thing. Get a tight end, help your young quarterback. It's amazing it's come full circle where Bijan Robinson, who we all say has to be the MVP of this team, for this team to be successful. He now gets to help Michael Penix the way that I think we sometimes talk about a tight end helping a young quarterback, because he's got an outlet. He can hand it to him, but he could also throw it to him. And I think Bijan Robinson's going to pay dividends in the maturity of Michael Penix.
Oh, it definitely will help. And when you have not even a young quarterback, but any quarterback, when you put that running game around him and people have to defend everything, that makes all the difference in the world. You look at the great teams. Troy Aikman did it with Emmitt Smith and helped him. When I had Peyton Manning, we had Edgerrin James and then Joseph Adai and Dominic Rhodes. And so you can't just load up and say, I'm going to come. Brian Flores wanted to come with some exotic stuff, but when you're running the ball at them and it's 2nd and 4 and 2nd and 5, and it's 3rd down and 3, and they may hand it off, I've got to be sound. That helps the quarterback tremendously.
Tony Dungy, the Hall of Famer, with us on the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line. The flip side is the play clock running down for the second consecutive week and them having problems, the Falcons' offense. If you're a head coach, what advice are you giving Zach Robinson?
Well, you have to be very concise, especially in the red zone, especially early on, and you've got to know where you're going to get that in. Part of it was, I think, the time factor. Part of it was the noise. Michael told us afterwards, early on, having a little trouble hearing through the headsets. So, yeah, you've got to get that squared away. But you're right. In big games, boy, you don't want that, because the difference between a field goal and a touchdown when you're playing great teams, that's what it is. So you've got to be able to react and just move quickly and concisely and know exactly what you're doing, especially in the red zone.
Tony, can I do a comp? And maybe it's not fair because of the success the team had. But is Roger Craig, who I think is one of the most underrated backs in the history of the game, is Roger Craig sort of a good Bijan?
Yes, very similar. Can do a lot of things, catch the ball, run inside, run outside. Not a big guy, but able to run through tackles and break tackles and make people miss. That's probably a pretty good one. I was trying to think of some other of that type, but yeah, that's a good one.
All right, we've had coaches and GMs on, Nick and I, for 25 plus years, and there's always been a moment where if we ask, they know exactly what we're talking about. The Falcons have had it a few times. I think everybody's had it. You don't necessarily have to give a name, but when you're a coach or you're working in a front office and you draft a guy, or even a veteran who might be at the very end of his career, when you realize the guy doesn't love football, the guy doesn't really, it's not going to work, because you just can't flip that switch in certain guys, even after that draft pick. What's that like, knowing that, oh, we probably have a problem, and it might not be skill. He just might not love the game.
Well, first of all, you try not to select anybody like that in the draft. And that was one thing I did with our scouts. And I was fortunate to be with some GMs, Rich McKay, who you guys know well there, Bill Poland. That's got to be the number one thing. Do you love football? Is it super important to you? That's the kind of guys I want. I remember when we drafted Dallas Clark, and we brought him in. We flew him in after the draft, and he said, I didn't think you guys had any interest in me because you didn't ask me any of the basic questions. You asked me about life and what I wanted to do and who I was, and I said, that's what I want to find out. Do you love football? Do you love being part of a great team? And that's what you have to have. Now, sometimes you'll draft guys like that, and you're right, over the course of time, they lose it. And I can remember Coach Knoll, when I first started working for him as an assistant coach, he said, if a guy is talking about retirement, thinking about it, it's time for him to go. We're not talking anybody into coming back for another year, because you do have to have that love for the game to make it work for 16 games, 17 games now.
Tony Dungy with us on the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line. You bring up Chuck Knoll, and I remember watching one of the NFL Films projects on him, and he told his wife as they were coming off the field in '79, this is it. We're not going to be the same team. As a head coach, I guess that's the dichotomy, right? You're thinking about the here and now, but you also have to plan for the future.
Yes. And I think that's where the Falcons are doing really, really well. They've got a bright future ahead of them with some young people in place. And they've got a system. They've got an offensive system and a defensive system, so your scouts know what to look for. Who fits? What do we need? And who can operate well in this offense and defense? And I think they're set up for some long-term success.
We've heard, certainly, Howie Roseman up in Philadelphia has loved Georgia guys. Was there a school or two when you were coaching that you said, when those guys show up at camp, they're just ahead of the curve because they're running it the way that we want to run it up here.
Yes, I mean, you know the coaches that have been around the block, and you know what type of programs they run. I mentioned Dallas Clark. We got Bob Sanders the next year from Iowa. And at that time, Coach Ferenz was exactly like we did things, and we knew if we took a guy from Iowa, he was going to fit in very well with us because they were used to doing it that way. I had some ties with some Big Ten schools, and that was the case. Nick Saban. I know what type of program he runs, and I know that clowns aren't going to get through that program. So you draft a guy from Alabama or LSU when we drafted Joseph Adai, you know what you're getting.
I'm going to ask, it's 2 weeks into the season. It's been 7 years since his team made the playoffs. We looked at some draft picks that didn't work. We looked at clock management. A couple of coaches have already come through here. I'm asking you based upon perhaps just the Minnesota game, maybe the Tampa Bay game as well. Is this a good football team?
Yes, it is a good football team, and I can tell you what I sensed talking, because my job is to go around and talk to both sides, players, coaches, and you can tell atmosphere, you can tell attitude. And what I sense from the Falcons, hey, we believe in our coach. We know what we're doing. You mentioned Jesse Bates' comments. I got the same thing from the offensive guys. But we're on track. We've got a system. We believe in our quarterback. Not that they didn't believe in Kirk, but this young man is smart. He's a leader. I watched him grow up in the Tampa Bay area, and I watched him lead on the high school level the same way and get people to believe in him. So I think this is a good football team.
Now, we talked about Kirk Cousins, and I think Chris and I stand in agreement. No reason for him to go anyplace else. Are you surprised he's still here?
I am absolutely not surprised because, number one, they want him. They know that he can be a big help and has been a big help to Michael Penix. And I know Kirk Cousins, the man, and he wants Atlanta to succeed. He wants to be part of it. Yes, he wishes he was playing. Yes, he'd like to be a starter. And if he could go somewhere and do that, he would. But he knows he's a strong believer in the Lord, and he feels like the Lord's got him there for a purpose, and part of it is to help this team win. And so I'm not surprised, and I think he's going to be very helpful to them down the road. And the fact that if something does happen to Michael Penix, just like J.J. McCarthy sprained his ankle, and now they're going to have to go 3 or 4 games with the backup quarterback. Cincinnati is going to have to go a while with Browning now. If something happens, you want that guy there that you have confidence in.
There is no doubt in my mind. We talked about this. The money's already gone. I got the best backup in the NFL. And this weekend, while people said, you see, now's the time to trade him, I was like, no. Did you see who went down?
5 different quarterbacks.
This is the time already to have him.
Yes, and if Kirk was a problem, if he was there every day saying, I can't believe I'm not playing and I need to play, I've got to be – but I talked to him before the game, too, and he's fired up for this team, and he's excited about his role. He wishes he could have a different role, but he's excited about this one.
I don't want you to stick your nose into other people's business, but it is the NFL. If you were doing your job and then you worked for a group, you were a part owner, and it is the Brady thing, because we saw him up in a booth, he's got headsets on. Do you have a feeling or a belief as to how the league is letting it happen this year, different from last year?
I'm not for that, and I think Tom should be able to do what he wants to do and should be able to broadcast and take part in all that. But I don't know if you can do that and be part owner of another team. I would be very, very concerned if I was still coaching.
You're sitting down talking to the commanders. Right. You're sitting down talking to the commanders, everybody in the organization, and then your team's going to play. Your team, by the way, we're allowed to say it's his team. You're going to be playing them. I just don't even understand how this is all possible right now.
Yeah, and those guys get to come to practice on Friday or Saturday. And so even if it's not intentional, here is Tom Brady now looking and watching and seeing practice squad players and how they perform. Like, gee, this guy looks pretty good. Maybe down the road, this is a guy we want. He's getting access that no other owner is getting. And I'm not saying he's doing it intentionally, but it's not fair. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, I mean, you're a human being. You're going to notice things. I mean, and you're a football guy. You can't help but notice whatever could help your team down the road.
Nobody else gets to do that.
Right.
Could I say, hey, I'm part owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to hire someone, and I want you to let them come in and watch practice every week at different places and look at coaches. No, it's patently unfair, and it can't. I don't know. I wouldn't be a fan of that.
What did you think when you saw Detroit put up 50 on Chicago and Ben Johnson?
I knew that Detroit wanted to come back with a good offensive game after really being shut down week one. I did know and think that if they had a chance, they would want to prove, hey, Ben Johnson isn't the only thing that we had on offense last year. We can do this without him. So what better way to make that point? If they got up, I was not surprised that they'd keep the hammer down.
What do you make of Kansas City's 0-2 start, and what's the ceiling?
And you have them on Sunday night. They're in New Jersey against the Giants.
Yeah. We're studying that, and I think they've made some improvements defensively. They've gotten better. They actually held Philadelphia down really well. They don't have playmakers right now, and that's surprising because we're used to seeing Kansas City make plays. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have to be much more disciplined now because you can't afford to go a series and have something go off. I just didn't get to the right check, or I missed this receiver. You've almost got to be perfect. But they've got to get better on offense. They've got to be able to run the football. Patrick Mahomes can't be your leading rusher if you expect to win in this league.
Just real quick, I know you were sitting in studio for Baltimore and Buffalo, and then we asked, and we did it before the game, man, the Falcons in Minnesota, I'm surprised that's a Sunday night, second week game. And it was, I think even Chris Collinsworth said at one point, and it was a little bit different than last week. What did you think of the dichotomy of those two games, knowing that they're both Sunday night NFL games?
Well, they were very good matchups and very close games, different styles, and that's okay. We saw young quarterbacks that I think the country wanted to see. Minnesota was a playoff team last year. Atlanta was right on the verge, so I had no problem with that. The fact that it wasn't 41-40 doesn't really bother me as a defensive guy. I like to see defenses stand out. So, yeah, we've got to have different types of games, and we can't be concerned if we don't have the star power of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, if we don't have the 40 points a game. That's okay. It still can be a good game.
All right, Coach, have fun on Sunday at MetLife Stadium with the Giants and the Chiefs, Sunday Night Football on NBC, and we'll talk down the road. Always great to have you on.
All right. I think you're going to have me on more because I think these Falcons are going to be pretty good.
Well, hold on. Let me write that down.
I'm hoping you're right, Coach.
Tony on more. Falcons are going to be pretty good.
I think we might get flexed to them later on in the year.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to write that down.
Another headline.
The Falcons are going to be flexed.
Very good. The Hall of Famer, Tony Dungy.
Thanks, Tony.
We appreciate it as always.
Thanks, guys.
There's the coach saying, Falcons fans,
May I?
good news is coming up down the road.